Welcome back, guys. Welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be covering Spain versus Sweden. I've not really been following. I have been following football, but I've not been doing any videos on the other matches from since the Denmark versus Finland match. Just thought I'd take a little break from it. I was following the Denmark match, and then what happened to Ericsson kind of put me off watching and reviewing videos for a little bit, and then I caught up with the England match. And then I thought I'd watch the matches today and do a review on the Spain versus Sweden game. So yeah, let's get stuck into that. So just having a look at Spain's team and talking about the way that they approached this game. The result was 0-0, and I did say before the match I wouldn't be surprised if this ended 0-0 because of the way that these two teams play. Spain play a very possession-based game, similar to a lot of Spanish teams in the Liga. But they really dominated the game, but they really didn't have any end product. And that sounds kind of obvious because it's 0-0, but they did have a few chances, the best chance falling to Morata, who completely fluffed his chance. I was quite disappointed with the way that Torres played. I didn't feel like he didn't look that dangerous. I mean, Sweden did line up in a way which was just very difficult to break them down, but I was still expecting Torres to get something, but he didn't really play that well. He misplaced quite a few passes and just didn't really look like that much of a threat. To be honest, the player that looked like the biggest threat for Spain was actually Koke. I felt like he was making the runs, he was making the key passes, and also Olmo. I thought Olmo looks quite threatening as well. But yeah, there wasn't really that much standout. There wasn't a standout player from Spain. They were just kind of pretty average, just making a lot of passes with not much end product. I also thought that Jordi Alba was a bit of a letdown as well. He doesn't look like the player that he used to be. His crossing wasn't really on point at all, so I was a bit disappointed. But I think that the defence for Spain, they were still quite good. I mean, Laporte and Torres completely controlled the back four. Laporte especially was very good matching up against Isak. He won that battle for the most part, although Isak did have one or two really good chances. But I thought that they really controlled, the Laporte and Torres really controlled the pace of the game, as opposed to Rodri or the midfield. It was really these two who were making a lot of passes out from the back. So it was quite it wasn't the most interesting game to watch, I'll be honest. But yeah, I think that they really dominated the game. Yeah, but I think for fantasy football picks, I personally wouldn't go near a Spanish attacker, just because I have no idea who will get the goals for Spain. It can vary so much. I mean, if you even just look at the substitutions that were made, let's just have a quick look now. Yes, if you look at all the substitutions that were made, I mean, Torres was substituted off at 74 minutes, Morata 66, almost 74, even Koke 87, and Rodri 66. Although Rodri is unlikely to get a goal, but there really wasn't much. There wasn't really a standout player for Spain who looked like they were going to get the goals. They shared a lot of the chances, similar to like a Pep Guardiola team. So I would personally avoid them just because they just don't seem. Yeah, I mean, it could have been Sweden. It could have been the way that Sweden lined up, and that's what made it difficult for them. But I think that a good counter-attacking team will break down Spain quite easily. They did look a bit vulnerable on the counter-attack. Isak had two really good chances. So yeah, wasn't too impressed with Spain, but yeah, I guess I would focus on their defense potentially. Poland and Slovakia could potentially probably maybe not get much against Spain, but no, I wasn't. I was a little bit let down with them. So I'm going to avoid Spain for now in terms of fantasy football picks. Moving on to Sweden, this was I mean, I wouldn't have recommended any Swedish picks before game week 1 anyway, and I probably won't recommend them going forward, but I thought it was still worth mentioning how they played in case teams that come up against them, for example like Poland and Slovakia. I thought that the only real threat on their team was Isak. This guy was actually really talented. He was the absolute man of the match without a doubt. He just somehow seemed to make chances out of nothing. I mean, they were playing essentially park the bus style football, very very defensive, very very defensive. I mean, their two strikers were literally where you can see them now on the pitch. They were behind the halfway line in midfield. They really weren't getting up. I mean, they broke a few times on the counter, and Isak really just made chances out of nothing. And they should have actually. I reckon they probably could have beaten Spain, maybe 1-0, 2-0. Even though Spain had more chances, Sweden's chances I felt were better. The only thing I'd say against that was Morata had one key really good chance. But Sweden also equally had two really good chances. They didn't get loads of chances, but they had two really good ones, which they could have scored. So, yeah, I wasn't really that interested in watching this game, to be honest. It was a very boring game, but they played very, very defensive football, very negative defensive football. No real picks of interest from this team, to be honest, apart from Isak. But let's just have a look now, he even got subbed off at 69 minutes. So he's not going to be getting a brace or a hat trick. They're only playing 69 minutes. So I really don't think there's any players from this team worth mentioning for fantasy football purposes. But it's good to have knowledge on how these teams play so that you can predict the results a bit better. Okay, so that's my summary of Spain versus Sweden. It was definitely not the most interesting game, but definitely still worth watching and still worth covering to see which picks I might pick for Matchday 2 and Matchday 3 potentially. I do think going forward I probably will avoid Spain players slightly more, simply because they didn't look that confident in defence. I mean, they did let pass them two really good chances, and also they didn't look like they were going to score goals. They just didn't look like they were going to score goals at all. I mean, Morata was just absolutely terrible for the goal. So probably going to avoid Spain players for future. But yeah, that's my coverage of Spain versus Sweden. I may cover the match that went on the other day, England versus Croatia. I actually really enjoyed that one. So yeah, I may cover that. But until then, yeah, that's the end of this video, and take care.